My name's Paul, welcome to Paul Perambulates. In this episode, I'm in the west of England, in Gloucestershire, exploring the Forest of Dean. My start point is New Fancy View. Grid reference SO62780957, postcode GL167EL. What 3 words? Parading, custodial, churn. I initially head westward, then turn northward along the banks of Cannop Ponds. At this point I encounter the sculpture trail. See a link to the website in the description below. I bag most of the sculptures on my northward pass and then continue on round, turning eastward towards the Cinderford corner of the forest. I head back southward via Crabtree Hill Trig Point and then back westward again to rejoin the sculpture trail. I bag the remaining sculptures, visit the speech house in the centre of the forest, and then take the long walk down the Spruce ride, visiting Speech House Lake on the way. Finally, I take the cycle route back down to New Fancy View. Total distance 21 kilometres, total height gain 370 metres, total time 5 hours and 57 minutes. This is New Fancy View car park. Free, but what this one does have is a gate, unfortunately. And as we can see, the day I've come, early November, this site closes at 5 PM. So basically, if you don't get back here, you're stuck in the car park overnight. Despite that, New Fancy View is a great place to park. It's beautifully appointed, is absolutely massive. Can't imagine that you'd struggle to find a space here, even on the best summer day. And it also has a raised viewing platform, which I intend to exploit next. It's late in the year, the forest isn't far from me, so I've got here in time to see it wake up. I bring the scouts to the Forest of Dean every year because it's hard to navigate around here. You can't see very far because of all the trees. You have to think about slope and contours and stuff like that. And at this point I'd normally divert them into the woods because it's harder to find your way around there. But I haven't got them with me today, so taking full advantage. I'm just having a nice stroll along by the side of the lake. I'm thoroughly enjoying peace, solitude and tranquility. This is Cannop Ponds, where there's a play and display car park. and an absolutely beautiful picnic site. Loads of nice sturdy tables, and of course the lake. Beautiful spot. A lovely tranquil stroll has now turned into a cultural expedition. I'm on the sculpture trail, looking to see what lots of artists have made of man's connection with nature. The first time I ever saw this, I genuinely thought it was just some remaining sleepers from the old railway. But it is actually a sculpture. It's called Iron Road. And if you look carefully, in the middle of each sleeper, there's a little carving relating in some way to the nature or the history of the forest. We all have a tidy little footbridge and a pond like this, but this one has a sculpture by it, and this sculpture is called Threshold. This one is called Hill 33. It's fenced off because it's probably dangerous, but that's actually deliberate. It was built with the latest building materials, but with the intention that they would be pushed apart by the growth of nature within and among it. And that's certainly happening. This is not marked on the sculpture trail. A lot of work's gone into it. So that one will have to remain a mystery. This is the Grove of Silence, marked by these plaques containing the word silence in various languages, here German. This one is called In Situ, and it's pieces of real bamboo and pieces of fake, i.e. metal bamboo, sticking out the ground. Not easy to spot. That's all the sculptures found in part one of my exploration of the trail, and the rest I've planned into the route on the way back down, so we'll be seeing those later. The oldest and therefore the tallest trees in the forest are all close to the footpaths, and the reason for that is that they're away from the enclosures. That's enclosures with an I, not an E, and I'll explain those later. For the moment, I'm looking up at some staggeringly tall trees. I'm now in Serage Enclosure. I mentioned enclosures with an I earlier. To my knowledge, the only place you'll find them is in the Forest of Dean, and they originate from the English Civil War. During that time, the forest was plundered by both sides, with the iron ore under the ground and the timber above ground that could be used for fuel to smelt it. And after the restoration in 1668, they passed a reforestation law to help it to recover. And that was when the inclosures came into being. And they were areas of managed forest to help the whole thing recover. The irony is now that because they're managed, when they get big, they're cut down. In the meantime, the trees outside the enclosures, which are generally the ones nearer the paths, have just been left to grow naturally. So they are actually now the oldest and tallest trees, like the ones we were looking at in the Grove of Silence. Either way, at this time of year, autumn, it just all looks unbelievably beautiful. I gave an explanation earlier of why the oldest and tallest trees are close to the paths. And this is a great example. And this is why when you walk around the Forest of Dean, perhaps more than in any other forest, you really feel like you're part of it. Because the biggest, tallest, oldest and frankly most beautiful trees are right up close to you. Back on the case with the sculpture trail now, just a few more to find. The idea of royal forests arrived with the Normans. They loved to hunt, and around here there were lots of deer and wild boar, and in fact there still are. I've actually seen wild boar around this area myself before. I doubt if we'll be lucky enough to see any today, but it would be lovely if we did. Now, in order to make sure that these deer and boar were plentiful, they wanted people kept off the forest. So they appointed officials to do exactly that, so that they could enjoy their sport. And the descendants, if you will, of those officials still exist today, and they're called the verdurers. Not entirely sure how you pronounce that, but it's their job to keep the place green, basically. Here, where the roads meet in the centre of the forest, is the speech house, and it's here that the verdurers still meet quarterly. I'm at the top of the Spruce ride now, and here there's yet another car park. No gates, completely free. I'm walking down the Spruce ride now, and I've got a kind of a view at the end there, one which might even work better in portrait mode, and if it does, it'd be the only one I've ever seen that did. But then you'd miss these beautiful trees either side. Certainly works if you're a fan of perspective. Walking right past New Fancy View itself. Big mound with a viewing platform on top. I'm back on the viewing platform at New Fancy View, where I saw the sun come up this morning, and it's going down in front of me just now. Normally I like to walk mountains and hills. I like to do a steep climb and enjoy the feeling of having earned the view you get from the top. If I come to the Forest of Dean, I normally bring the scouts, take them into the deepest, darkest parts so that they can learn to navigate. Today I've done something very different from that. I've gone out and found the best that the forest has to offer, and there was an awful lot of it. Quite apart from the natural stuff, the beautiful autumnal colours, the serenity of the lakes, there's the human additions as well, particularly the sculpture trail. The great thing about the forest is it's easy walking. Difficulty wise, I'm giving this a 4. I found it really, really easy. Most of the paths used to be railways, so they're relatively flat, they're solid, wide, easy to follow. There are lots of paths. Most of the forest is access land, so you can go pretty much wherever you want, and there are loads of car parks. So it's really easy to set up a walk that's as easy or difficult as you want to take on. I've had a really great day, and I thoroughly recommend that you come along and give it a try. All maps and 3D fly-throughs provided by kind permission of Ordnance Survey through their excellent OS Online application. Big thanks also for all music used in this video to mixkit.co and upbeat.io. Specific song and artist credits can be found in the comments. These videos are intended to show you around the routes I walk, in case you're considering doing them yourself. They are absolutely not intended to be any kind of general hill walking guidance or training. If you need hill walking skills, obtain them in person from a reputable, qualified provider. Please don't attempt these walks unless you have the required levels of fitness, equipment, knowledge and experience. You can find more about me and my background at my website, paulperambulates.co.uk. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Paul Perambulates. If you did, please subscribe and share.